Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Syracuse salt potatoes. That's right, this is Syracuse, New York's second most popular export, after of course the Syracuse Orangemen basketball team. Go Orange. And while I guess this is technically a recipe, it really is more of a science experiment. In fact, if you mail me the paperwork, I'll see if I can get you a little college credit for this. But anyway, let me show you how these are made. And the first thing you're going to need is some little potatoes. And really any variety of new potato is going to work. And these little 2-pound bags of the mixed red and gold potatoes are pretty common. Just look for the provocative fishnet stocking packaging. And by the way, crazy people that email me every time I use these little potatoes, no, those little tiny eyes are not poisonous or toxic or dangerous. I mean, think about it. Otherwise, every hospital in the United States would have like a baby potato wing. Okay? So relax. And then what we're going to do is we're going to dump those into a saucepan along with a little bit of salt. A little more. Okay, a little more. I'll tell you when. A little more. And that's good. So yes, not surprisingly, the secret ingredient to Syracuse salt potatoes is a massive, massive amount of salt. I'm actually going to put an entire cup of kosher salt in here, which means, as you can see here, those crystals are a little bigger. So if you are going to use fine table salt, you'll have to adjust these amounts, and I will tell you how to do that in the post. And then, of course, we're going to need some water. So we're going to pour in some nice, fresh, cold water. Please do not use old, stale hot water. And then we're going to go ahead and place that on high heat and bring it up to a boil, which is going to take a while. Okay, we've significantly increased the density of that water, which means it's going to take longer to boil. And I guess while you're waiting, you could give it a stir. But that salt will dissolve regardless, so that was mostly because I was looking for something to do. And it's funny, you're going to notice, even before this starts to simmer, you're going to see salt start to accumulate around the edges of the pan. All right, this is nothing to be concerned about, totally normal, which is good because that's going to get a lot worse. And then after about 10 minutes or so, this should come up to a boil like mine is here. And then really all you need to do is simmer this for about 15 or 20 minutes or until they're tender. And every once in a while you can give them a stir. If you want to wash some of that accumulated salt from the sides of the pan, go ahead. It doesn't really do anything, but it's kind of fun. And above and beyond accumulating on the edges of the pan, the salt's going to go everywhere. The good news is it just cleans up with a damp rag. But fair warning, everything close to this pot will be speckled with salt. And then one other thing you'll notice besides all the salt accumulating is how high up those potatoes are floating in that water. Remember that time we went swimming in the Dead Sea? And because the water had so much salt in it, we floated right on top? This is just like that, right? Which is why I like to give them a stir once in a while. Now, we might as well cover this right now. These are not going to be salty. All right, these potatoes have a membrane that's going to protect them from absorbing too much salt, which is why you cannot cut these. This only works with whole potatoes. But anyway, besides the occasional stir and the plain with the salt on the sides, we don't really have anything to do but wait for these to get tender. And when you think you're getting close, you're going to give them the old poka. And these were getting very close, but they needed like 2 more minutes. And by the way, once you poke them, do not put them back in the water or they will absorb too much salt. And then once you have decided they are tender enough, we're going to go ahead and drain those thoroughly. And then check this out. This is the coolest part about this recipe. As soon as you drain them, you're going to watch that wet, shiny surface turn into a very light, dusty coating of salt. Check it out. So cool. In fact, I time-lapsed a little B-roll I did, so you can really see this in effect. Okay, so don't be alarmed. These are going to turn very dusty very quickly. Totally normal. And at that point, you're going to transfer these onto a plate because we want to serve these piping hot. And if you want these to be considered true Syracuse salt potatoes, you must make room for some melted butter. And can you use margarine for this? No, you can't. Margarine is not really food, so don't eat it, please. And then other than a few toothpicks, you are ready to dig in. And by dig, I mean stab. So let me grab one of these and dunk it in. And I don't know what it is. Well, actually, I do. It's all that salt. But this method produces such an unbelievably flavorful potato. And above and beyond the perfectly seasoned taste, the texture is unlike anything you'll get boiling potatoes in a normal fashion. The texture is dense but super creamy and much closer to a roasted potato than a boiled potato. It's just such an interesting phenomenon. And I think I may have been sick the day we covered salt in science class. So maybe some of our nerdier viewers can explain to the rest of us why scientifically this works so beautifully. And then let me dunk one more here, just so I can use the word juxtaposition. I mean, look at that, the visual contrast between that shiny, buttery potato and that dry, dusty surface on the ones next to it is a sight to behold. And for whatever reason, if you're not into the dusty platter presentation, you could do individual servings and just simply drizzle or brush the butter on top before you serve. Which I will admit is much prettier, but you're kind of cheating your guest out of that visual excitement of dipping that dull, dusty potato into that hot butter and watching it glisten. So either way, whether you do them as a platter or individual servings, you're in for one of the great American potato experiences of all time. I mean, come on, it's a potato recipe invented by Irish salt miners. How is that not going to be awesome? Okay? So I really hope you give these a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.